What's going on, everybody? This is Tyler Weeb from Pro Physique, and today we're going to talk about the importance of tracking and dieting. Alright, welcome back, everybody. I hope you are all having a fantastic day so far. So today, I wanted to talk about the importance of being really strict with your tracking while you are dieting. So maybe a lot of times when we are reversing, we're not maybe being the most diligent with our tracking, which is totally fine. That is a period in our life where, maybe we can eyeball a few things, maybe just not even really put things into our tracker. I mean, as long as they're not our big caloric expenditures, there might be one or two things you're like, it's fine, like I'm within 300 calories, so should be fine. And that is part of reverse dieting, right? We don't need to be as strict as maybe when we are dieting. We can be a little more loose. But if we start to carry that over into our diet, then we're going to have some issues, because every single calorie is going to count when we start dieting. So a lot of the times, and I've heard this plenty of times, is people start this diet and they're told X food is free, meaning that it doesn't need to be tracked. You can have as much as you want and it doesn't technically count to your caloric total. Unfortunately, that is not true. All foods have calories in it, right? And at the end of the day, depending on how much you have, that can add up to quite a significant difference that if you were tracking it, you would know where you're at. So take my last prep, for example. I've never really tracked veggies when I'm reversing, anything like that. It's just not something that I'll track, and it's probably not something that I eat enough of. But anyways, just not something that I track, right? They are going to be a lot more calorically dense, and having some, you're not going to be crazy over your caloric total by the end of the day, most likely. And as long as you have a quite stable metabolism, you're going to be okay. But when I started dieting, I made sure to start tracking those veggies. And so typically when we do start dieting, we are going to start incorporating more veggies into our diet, just because they are a little less calories, just for a lot more food. And so they're a great diet food. But if you're not tracking, you will be surprised actually how much veggies can add up over the day. And you could use this for anything that maybe you think is insignificant to your caloric total. I'm just using veggies because I believe that it's a very good example for a lot of people, because I think a lot of people do tend to think that, hey, veggies are free. I've even seen that fruit is free as well, which is kind of crazy when you start adding it up. Those calories start to get pretty high, actually. Anyways, with veggies, I would have my veggie omelet, and then I had veggies throughout the day. Well, when I was not tracking them, I was not worried about it. I started tracking these, and I started realizing that, hey, by the end of the day, this is adding up to 30 grams of carbs, 40 grams of carbs. Again, depending on how much you're consuming and again, the type of veggie that you're consuming. But if you think about that, 30 grams, 40 grams of carbs extra, at the end of the day, while you are dieting, when we are really trying to create that caloric deficit, can play a huge role in maybe you not getting into that caloric deficit that you actually might think that you are. And so basically what you're doing here is you're not losing weight, so you're cutting calories, but you're not tracking your veggies, and before you know it, you really haven't made any progress, and your calories are way too low now, and we didn't really lose much weight because we weren't being diligent with our tracking. And so I don't think that the concept can be understated enough that you need to make sure that you are tracking everything when you're dieting. You need to make sure that you are on point, because the only way that we're going to continue to create a caloric deficit is to continue to decrease food and increase cardio. Well, we don't want to go too fast with that. We always want to squeeze out as much as we can with our current cardio intake and current calorie intake. And if we're missing tracking something on a daily basis that is adding up to 20, 30, 40 grams of carbs, that could play a huge role in not being in that caloric deficit, right? To lose body fat, we need to be in a caloric deficit, right? At the end of the day, that is going to be one of the number one factors that's going to get you where you want to go. And if you aren't tracking everything, you're doing yourself a disservice and not allowing yourself to get the progress that you need. So when you diet, make sure we are tracking everything. Veggies, if you really want to get serious about it, you can track your gum. I know that was something that I started to get to towards the end of prep, is I would just track everything. Can it be a little neurotic? Yes, for sure. So, but you do need to realize that what phase you are in and that your goals are and what do you need to do to reach those goals. Well, you need to be very diligent with your tracking. You can't really eyeball things. You need to weigh it out, right? Not even like packing into a tablespoon. I would still weigh everything out. Don't go, it was about a cup of that, because chances are you're gonna be pretty loose with that 1 cup. And it can vary, right? It can look full and it can be a certain amount, and you can really pack it in and it can be a certain amount weight-wise. Right? And they could be the big difference between calories and could cause you to go over your macros at the end of the day. So again, when you start dieting, the importance of tracking everything, being very diligent with your food is going to be very, very important to making sure that you are in a caloric deficit. Because if you are missing things, well, food's going to continue to go down until we start seeing results. So we want to make sure that we are squeezing as much as we can out of every single caloric intake that we're at throughout the dieting process. All right, guys, that's going to be everything for today. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you have any questions that you'd like to see answered in future videos, be sure to just leave those down below. I would be more than happy to do that for you. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.